you sponsor Hackfort, which is, for those of you who are not aware, this is a tech festival that brings the community together to share knowledge and new skills with one another. Every year you sponsor Hackfort, which is, for those of you who are not aware, Hackfort. This is a tech festival that brings the community together to share knowledge and new skills with one another. Hackfort. 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 Every year you sponsor Hackfort. 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 This is a tech festival that brings the community together to share knowledge and new skills with one another. Every year you sponsor Hackfort, which is, for those of you who are not aware, Hackfort is a tech festival that brings the community together to share knowledge and new skills with one another. Hackfort. Every year you sponsor Hackfort, which is, for those of you who are not aware, Hackfort is a tech festival that brings the community together to share knowledge and new skills with one another. Hackfort. Hackfort. For those of you who are not aware, Hackfort. 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 For those of you who are not aware, Hackfort.
The term artist, that title, it just never felt right. But then no titles ever felt really good or comfortable, for me. And I've worn a lot of titles. 4 years ago, I really embraced this term artist and leaned into that 100%. And it's really been transformative in how I approach virtually everything I do through the lens of an artist, not as a writer, not as a business owner or a creative coach. It's through this lens of an artist. Art is only art because an artist made it. And that's why I love it. It's like, why is this fucking art? Because I'm an artist and I made it. Having spent 25 years in advertising and learning the dark arts of persuasion, what is the message? What is the best way to communicate that message and have the most impact for your audience? A lot of my work is about, exploring what it means to be human and this duality of self. So it's happy and sad, it's light and dark, it's serious and fun. Artivism is a combination of art and activism. This is really about humanity and the impact that our actions have on one another. In my experience, only good things have come out of being vulnerable. The more vulnerable that you are, the more good comes your way. Mortality has been a big theme of mine, and I do think my desire to be in legit galleries and museums and have my work live on is certainly a product of legacy and having a piece of me live beyond my human form. I'm always going to be evolving, and who knows where I'll be tomorrow.
All right, we are live. Welcome to Hackfort Live, the show about technology, video games, long-winded rants, nerd culture, and of course, our magical Treefort Music Festival. I'm Sean Mikely.
And I'm Mike Taylor.
And today we are going to talk with our special guest, Chad Rea. Chad has spent more than 2 decades creating ad campaigns for over 170 brands, from iconic game companies to tasty beers. He has used his knowledge and passion for advertising to channel his fascination and connecting larger groups of people. After several collaborative art projects, his growing need to create positive social impact began to bubble to the surface in his work as he experimented with more submersive ways to inspire positive change. Today's artwork can be described as Artivism, focusing on the events of the day as they relate to spirituality, gun violence, mental health, climate change, and self-help. Chad has a new book, Oh My God, Guns and Country, The Art and Artivism of Chad Rea, that you can order from his website at chadrea.com. Chad, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us, my man.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
So happy to be here and connect with you guys again. It's been too long. I've been living vicariously through your social media feeds.
Well, we appreciate it, man. And you too. You know, it's been, I would say it's been a very tumultuous few years for a lot of us, right? And a lot of things have happened.
What? Tell me.
You know, things. And your book really shows some of the work you've done around a lot of these social issues. And you know, I it's been really cool to have you as a friend, and you're someone who's come to Treefort before, you know, and a lot of what Treefort's about is about community and connecting people. And that's how we got to meet you, you know, and through your life, I mean, you've been able to do a lot of interesting things, and it's been cool to see you kind of find this channel, you know, the last few years, especially, you know, with a very divided country, a pandemic, big issues around guns, around all those, you know, and yeah, I'm really keen to kind of, you know, I guess actually I did want to read one segment from your book, from your preface, you know, and maybe we can just start with that, and you can then maybe talk about the book a little bit.
Sure.
This is something you wrote that I thought was really great. Depending on which piece of cheap imported merch you came across, the country part of the phrase can be interpreted to mean country music, America, or the country of Texas. Sometimes you'll see country replaced with words like guts, glory, oil, or breakfast tacos. What about Torchy's tacos? But the two parts you just don't mess with are God and guns. Them's fighting words. And despite spending my formative years in El Paso and in San Antonio as a gun-shooting, church-going conservative, and then returning twice in my liberalized adult life to Lubbock, Dallas, and now Austin, I've chosen to fight the good fight with art. It's pretty strong words there.
It's great. And cue lawnmower.
Cue
the window.
It's perfect.
That's the other thing you don't mess with.
Lawnmowers.
Yeah. Don't mess with the lawnmower, man. So, you know, where do I start?
Yeah.
I grew up in Texas. You know, my family's from El Paso, which is a border town. And, you know, it wasn't until I moved away, my mother got remarried when I was 12, and I started to meet other people of color and just different backgrounds and diversity that I started to broaden my worldview. And, you know, every 4 years I moved from one state to another, eventually went, you know, international, thanks to my career in advertising. And, you know, I think people in advertising like to consider themselves creative problem solvers, and yet the problems that we're asked to solve are typically marketing problems or design problems. Very rarely are they social problems. But I got interested in, you know, a lot of social issues when I owned my own ad agency in Los Angeles in the early 2000s, and created a homeless philanthropy initiative that, you know, ended up spanning 32 countries. And that sort of started me on this journey, I guess, to use my creative talents for the forces of good, if you will. But I didn't actually start making art seriously until about 4 years ago. And, as the video sort of, protests, is this idea of identity and titles and who am I, because I do so many different things. And, I never really felt comfortable with the title of an artist, but 4 years ago, I really embraced this idea of an artist. And I would say the real story started, 25 years ago. I painted this painting, my first ever painting, and rolled it up into a tube, traveled the world with this tube. When I moved to Austin 6 years ago, I finally had the wall space to take it out of the tube and hang it. Yeah, and I put it up, took a picture, put it on Instagram, and one of my artist friends says, "Hey, did you paint that?" And I said, "Yeah," and he said, "You should paint more." Huh. And so I went out and bought paints, and this was just before the election. Oh. And I was just flooded with all kinds of emotions, and I channeled that, and I ended up painting 100 paintings in 172 days. And wow. And that was called Upon Hearing the News.
That's a perfect segue. I will pull up one of those. Which one did I like from that? There's a few good ones.
Yeah, so just to sort of bring it back to the book real quick.
Yeah.
Is that happened in 2007, and I just continued to make art based on various social issues, whether it was mental health, American gun culture, climate change. And, for the last 4 years, I haven't stopped making art. And
I've really seen you channel, I think you are able to use kind of some of your humor for serious, and it's not necessarily funny, but you're able to kind of use your ability to connect people with like thoughts and ideas, and I see that in your work, Chad, and I really appreciate it. I mean, we'll get to kind of the gun show, but that is a lot of those pieces. Mike and I grew up in Idaho, where it's a very red state like Texas, right? We love our guns in this state, and I grew up with a very liberal family, but I would, I'm an Eagle Scout. I learned how to safely operate guns, and I do, I like to go out and shoot them and stuff, but there is this problem, and I think you used a way of connecting people to this problem that I think most people can relate to, and I saw that, and I really appreciate that in your work, man. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, these are a lot of this stuff is it's hard to, I feel like in the current time, we are so divided that it's hard to kind of meet people in the middle on some of these issues. And I think art's a way to maybe bridge that, and so is, obviously talking about it, but I think art and music and, things people enjoy are a great way to try to maybe find some kind of middle ground on some of these issues, or not. Yeah. What do you think?
It's a good question. In my experience, because social media is really how, I use social media primarily for self-promotion, and putting my art out there. And, because I've worked in advertising, I know the dark arts of persuasion, if you will. And, I'll use hashtags in some of the titles, like, the gun show is actually hashtag the gun show, because I wanted to sort of circumvent the conversation on social media. And, either you're going to insert yourself into the guys showing off their biceps, and that gun show, or you're going to insert yourself into the pro gun arena. And they, I think they most pro gun rights activists will I don't know, go to these hashtags and lecture me on, the Second Amendment, or and there is no conversation that can be had on social media that's going to solve anything.
That's true.
I would be happy to have conversations with people, and I think in real time at an exhibition is a great place to have it. But to be honest, I'm not an expert in in all of the complex issues that surround gun violence. And I think my art asks more questions than it does answers. And at the end of the day, it's about creating dialogue and conversation, and hopefully it can be a healthy conversation. But
yeah, I mean, some of it is very, some of your pieces are very like upfront about it, right? But I think it makes people at least think about it and talk about it, and maybe you'll start a fight with someone. But I don't if I was in a gallery looking at your work, again, different audiences too, but I think I would leave especially your gun show gallery very probably fired up about some of this stuff, and I definitely wanted to dig into some of those, but maybe we should just talk about, I mean, the first section I think we should talk about hearing the news. So for you, and I have pulled up here, do you see the, I think it was the first page there. What's this one called? Trump paints himself as the real victim of Charlottesville. That's a good start. And for you, you started with the painting. And so news comes out, you're feeling emotional about whatever the issues are. Charlottesville was tragic. And you paint this self.
Yes. So a little peek behind the curtain, going back to that painting that I painted 25 years ago, that was an abstract painting. And in many ways I was trying to like recreate that success, if you will, because I liked that painting, and I was like, I mean, I can't draw, to save my life. And so here I am, I have a bunch of paint and canvas. What am I going to do with it? And so I'm painting abstract paintings after, my morning coffee, looking at social media feeds. And so each of these titles are actual news headlines of that day.
Oh, okay.
And so I would start painting these, I was painting with a putty knife. So it was very sort of visceral, emotional scraping of paints. And I gravitate towards, bright primary colors, but the emotions that were coming out were sort of juxtaposed to that. And these faces started to reveal themselves. So I started painting out the abstract thing and circling in on these faces. And so this entire series is faces, so that's really the connection between the titles is, actual news headlines.
I mean, when I opened the book, I was like, I'm seeing double. This is like a self-portrait of Trump, and that's how I see him when I look at
Yeah, and I think that one that you called out is a lot of people like that one. I think that might have been the first in the series.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you just naturally like just keeping up on the news, or was this like, I don't know, like a way to process the craziness that was happening too?
I mean, I am guilty of getting my news from Facebook, and fortunately it's from the New York Times and, the Washington Post, and, not abc.co, or abcco.net or something like that, which, my parents would send me articles from those places. And I'm like, this is not ABC. This is not a real news organization, So, but yeah, like that's my morning ritual. I wake up, I drink coffee, I scour social media, and then I go about my day. and in this case, it was, painting. And so, I couldn't escape these absurd headlines.
Yeah.
Like this was very early sort of Trump. When
it was like a
everybody-
fire hose, right? I mean, I think we all were. It was every day something
Yeah.
was something,
Yeah.
and we're all used to kind of, the president, like, stuff happens, but this was like, what happened today? I can't, and I feel like, I don't know how you feel about this, Chad, but I felt like after the first year of Trump's presidency that I got numb to bad things happening, or wrong things happening, or it like I was desensitized to the media almost, because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just another, but like it and that's not right, but I felt that way, like I'm like numb to this at this point after a year of just a fire hose of
Yeah, it's weird. I never got used to it. I'm so thankful for the calm that I feel like we're experiencing right now. But no, it was just like fuck every day, and fortunately for me as an artist, that's good, because the well is overflowing, hence the book, right? Like this is a pretty thick book,
and
like
it's just it's your every day.
I've been busy. And what's really great too is not to say that this is all Trump related or anti-Republican, or it's really not about that. But I feel like this is all what's happened in the last 4 years. This is art that's happened in the last 4 years since I sort of claimed this title as an artist and an artivist. And so it is pretty telling. It is sort of a snapshot of what's happened. In accordance with the sort of timeline and what's been happening in culture.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's pull into the gun show. I'm gonna pull up the first one that I remember when you posted this on social media, and it really stuck with me. It's the one titled "American Flag, Thoughts and Prayers." And man, that's a statement, but it's
and it kind of became an omen after a while for me. Like every time I saw you posting it, I'm like, oh God. What happened? What happened now?
And I guess Chad, can you just tell us? I mean, you can kind of take this where you want, but I'm just curious where your thoughts are on guns in America and just I mean, I you can take this anywhere you want, bud, and No,
it's this collection is really my response to a lifetime of experiences around American gun culture. Growing up in Texas, similarly to you, I grew up around guns. My grandparents had, I don't know, maybe 5 gun cabinets, like fully stocked with guns. And I looked forward to going over there and, grabbing a musket from the Civil War era and shooting cans with that, or taking a shotgun out to the desert and shooting, rabbits, and felt like there was a good amount of gun safety going on, and we respected guns, but like I've always feared them. Even loading guns, I'm scared they're going to go off. I don't like killing things. I killed, those rabbits when I was young, and just found that wasn't really for me. Shooting in a gun range, shooting cans, that I'm okay with, but I do think there are certain regulations that could be tighter to help prevent senseless gun deaths.
I'm 100% with you.
and so like this piece, was probably the first piece of me sort of getting into more sculptural work away from the painting. And, it's based on those sort of cartoon or toy guns, that the bang bang flag. And so for me, this is that sort of knee jerk reaction. Every time a gun is fired and somebody is killed, the best anybody can say is thoughts and prayers,
Yeah, it was like, honestly, the line of media. I mean, that's what we saw in the news so many times, week after week. And, and Chad, I think one thing that's really not talked about enough is shootings happen at schools and all over the U.S., and the media doesn't report on it. And it's only when it's like, a big tragedy. And I work in the school system in my day job at Netics, and we're really in tune with a lot of these districts, and we hear about stuff going on, and it's something that's, thoughts and prayers. That doesn't fix, people that need help, people that need to get what they need, and I've never really been against taking away guns, but I've always thought, this could be there could be a better way, if we want to have them. There's responsibility, right?
It's an awful lot of loopholes.
Yeah, and this particular piece too is, it's not taking sides. It's really just a commentary on politicians and their response.
Yeah, I mean, that's very, very valid. There was another one from this set that I...
The bag of bullets.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was one I wanted to pull up. Let me grab that guy. Yep. This is a good one. Yeah, so bag of bullets, and then...
Yeah, so the one on the left of it's a clear backpack filled with roughly 4,200 AR-15 casings. And this was inspired after the Parkland shootings, and a lot of school districts mandated that students carry clear backpacks as a means to help deter guns entering into the school, which one is just sort of like a ridiculous solution, but I think symbolically what I'm doing here is, it's called Weight of the World, and to have young students carry clear backpacks, as a daily reminder to not only what happened in Parkland, but what could potentially happen to them, has just got to be emotionally devastating, for these students,
and the families and the parents and
yeah. So that was that, and then the one on the right is titled USA, 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 and it's a 5.5 foot sports trophy, and it's completely over the top, and it's got American flags and eagles, and it's a first place trophy. And then at the very top there's a man, I don't know, he's kind of holding a shotgun. I'm not sure what that trophy is actually for in real life.
Did you find it at a thrift shop?
No, I had it made.
Oh, you actually had this made.
But the
man
was probably already something you could put on there, right?
Yeah, and then if you look at the very bottom for what the trophy is actually for, it says #1 in mass shootings, USA.
Jeez.
So
I can zoom into a little bit here.
Yeah.
This just sort of plays on the notion of how Americans are so proud, and America's the best, and we're #1 in so many things, and including mass shootings. So
yeah, no, it's a strike image, and I think the other one I really liked from this section, because Mike and I are nerds, but this is also, again, another really serious, is the one with the 3D printer.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is kind of right up your alley.
Yeah.
from a tech standpoint, and I can't remember the guy's name. He was here in Austin. He was getting a lot of heat for putting 3D
plans on, yeah,
3D gun.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of his company, but yeah, I mean, he put plans on the internet, right? You could make a gun, and that was a big headline, and this problem hasn't really been fixed. Guns, it's a weird one because freedom of speech, right? People can put stuff on the internet, and so in some cases it's upheld that, yeah, you can put plans to make a gun on the internet. But man, I mean, Mike actually have right behind Mike, Chad is a 3D printer, and it's kind of been our new toy we've been using the last year. My roommate bought it and we built it, and it's unreal what you can do with these from a creative standpoint. But there's not a lot stopping you from building parts that can be used in a gun, and if you can find the plans, I mean, you could make a weapon that doesn't have a serial number on it, that isn't, and
it's not detectable, through like metal detectors, and so now people can take them on planes and in government buildings, and
it's I don't know what the answer is, because I'm all about freedom of speech, but at the same time, how do we even control or regulate, that? It's a really complex issue, and
Mark Zuckerberg will figure it out.
Zuckerberg's gonna fix it. The church of Zuckerberg.
I wish I knew what the answers were. I think, a lot of pro-gun folks would say that it's mental health, and better training.
But I think again, it's such a complex issue that that's what they'll say is it's mental health, or it's, they compartmentalize the problem, when in reality, when you have stuff like school shootings, sure, the person might be in probably is in an unhealthy mental state, but what got him to that? And then also what allowed him to have access to his parents' gun? There's a lot of things to this,
it's a complicated web for sure. And, guns have been a part of my life, in one way or another. Like you mentioned my experience with computer games. I mean, I worked and, on promoted a lot of those first person shooter games, and did like the packaging and the ads for those. And, I used to pride myself on like my ads being in front of Congress,
like for
saying
hearings,
video game violence.
Like, you're promoting violence and whatnot. But a lot of my work talks about how entertainment and the media are influencing this, and just how gun owners sort of pass down these traditions of hunting and guns, and buying guns at an early age. And for somebody that's suffered with depression, when I don't know, 10 years ago, I went through about 2 years of depression. And if I would have had a gun, that would have been the solution.
Wow.
And so I'm thankful I didn't have a gun at that time. But like when we're talking about mental health, like it's such a split decision. People who don't have issues might have an issue. They might get drunk. They might have a bad day. It might accidentally go off. You just don't know. And there was also a time when I lived in Los Angeles, I was actually robbed. Somebody broke into my house while I was home, and I chased them out of my house. And after that, I was scared to stay in that house because I was like, "Fuck, man, the alarm's going off." The dude knew I had an alarm. I'm home, and that
Wow.
didn't stop him, you know. And so the first thing I do is, you know, I call my dad and I was like, "Hey, do you have a gun that you can send me?" And
Yeah.
and because of California laws, this particular handgun that he was going to send me wasn't allowed in the state, and you know, he was kind of forgot about it and didn't have that gun. But like, I still think about that, you know, to this day. Like, if I would have had a gun, I would have shot the kid. I mean, he was 20, 22 or something, and then I would have had to live with that, you know.
Yeah, it would have altered your life, you know.
Yeah,
and a lot of the, you know, the gun people, you know, I hear it all the time. It's like, it's my right to protect myself, and I get that, but it's like, I don't think anyone really talks about the consequences of any of that. You know, we just blur right past the fact that if you shoot someone or go through, you know, the emotions of that, you are going to deal not only mentally, but you might go to jail. You know, a lot of people think like, oh, if it's on my property, it's like, we'll see how that holds up in court, you know. And you know, I'm really touched, Chad, that you shared, you know, going through a depression. I just recently, I found out about 2 weeks ago, my brother's best friend we grew up with in my hometown took his own life. And I mean, I'm still shocked. I'm still dealing with that, right? And that was through, you know, he had a gun, you know, and we didn't know, you know, and just didn't know he was how low he had gotten, you know. And it's so hard when someone leaves you like that, you know. And it, you think about the guns, you think about all these things, and you go like, man, you know. It's a tough one.
Can we talk about goods? Let's raise the level here.
You just want to switch ahead.
Did we lose your
Hackfort's a
audience?
fun podcast. Come to our festival.
Thought it was a good commentary.
No, it is.
But no,
and it's still going to be.
Yeah. No,
you can always take it out of the you know, the live folks unfortunately had to sit through that, but you can always like edit it out.
Yeah, we'll edit this out in post.
Well, let's move on. You know, the next one was titled Small Screen Zombies. And you already kind of touched on a little bit of this, but I know this relates to social media and our, you know, how it affects us. And, you know, oh man, I feel like social media became such a big factor this last year with the election, and actually the last couple elections, with fraud, with manipulation. And, you know, Mike and I we've talked about it a couple times on this podcast, where we're like, you need to use the social media to like promote Hackfort, but like every night before I go to bed, I'm always in that death scroll. You're always, you know, the serotonin you get from those little likes, right? You know, we're addicted to it. And this comes back to even where you're coming with connecting people and community. Social media connects us, but at what cost, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You know, the theme of the that collection is rooted in exactly what you're talking about, that insight. But you know, that collection is a little bit more playful than it leads.
Yeah, no, I guess I wanted to bring this topic into it because when I was reading, you know, through it, I was just kind of thinking about, you know, this, you know, I like your line here, the afterglow of overdosing on social media. You know, do you feel happy when you get off your phone after you're like doing a death scroll through Facebook?
I guess it depends, you know, but I do feel super guilty when I see that my screen time is up, you know, 17%, you know, from last week or some shit like that. I'm just like, man, what the fuck am I doing? You know, like I spent 4 hours on my phone, you know, like it's bad. I mean, and I notice like, oh, I'm watching TV and I'm like,
you're not watching TV, you're like on the phone.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
There's some, I mean, and it's all the apps, you know, it's Instagram, it's Facebook, but like now I'm house hunting and I'm on Zillow.
You're on Zillow.
I'm like dating houses, you know,
swiping on houses.
Yeah, it's insane. It's so
Oh
addictive.
my gosh, have you done TikTok yet? That is crack.
TikTok, you know, I've made some TikTok videos because, you know, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm
Try it out.
late to the party on almost every technology. um, but yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make some videos. And I don't know if it's the algorithm or what I selected, but man, I get so many toxic videos on TikTok.
Oh really?
If it's just like a TikTok video that somebody shares with me outside of the app, or I see it on Facebook or Instagram or something, like it's typically like comedy, and you know, I enjoy it. But like, you know, I can go from like comedy to like a video of a Karen, you know, or someone getting beat up,
Oh wow.
you know, and it's just like, what
Like,
the
I didn't pick this.
yeah, I'm like, man, like be nice to each other, people. Like it's like they come here for like entertainment and to laugh. Like
Yeah.
it's not funny people pulling these pranks and like hurting people, and
Yeah.
it's crazy what people are doing for attention.
Do you remember? Chad? Do you remember the ocean spray guy?
Yeah,
He's from southern Idaho.
yeah.
That was like, okay, this is what TikTok's for. You know, that like brought
Yeah.
our country together for like a day.
Yeah,
We need more ocean spray and cranberry. And
for sure. And then you saw the like copycat videos after that, and it's just like
come on. Yeah, come on.
everybody's trying to get famous.
Oh, that's a good question. Has anyone kind of duplicated some of your work, you know, in the time that you've done this? Has that come across your, you know, like your, you know, thoughts and prayers? Is that's like something where I could see someone trying to rip that off?
You know, that's a good point. I haven't seen anything. I feel like I'm in like my own little bubble. You know, I feel like nobody. You know, I'm not making a living off art. You know, and so that kind of just tells me that, you know, like nobody knows who I am. You know, as an artist, but
Well, this
I don't know.
Hackfort episode, you're gonna break through. And
I'm gonna blow up. Blow up. I'm gonna sell out. But
We're gonna make
yeah,
a cool TikTok.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I certainly know other artists that are getting ripped off, you know, from other countries.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, most of my stuff I rip off anyway, so it doesn't matter. No.
No, I mean, you are using, you know, you're using things that we all iconify, which is great, you know, and so yeah, well, that's cool. Well, you know, the next thing I kind of wanted to jump to, and Mike and I both wanted to talk about, was Good Goods. Can you kind of talk about how that started, and what you're doing with it? I know there's a little bit behind it.
Yeah, so Good Goods, depending on how you look at it, was, you know, here it says art for the price of a charitable donation and vice versa. So it could be a charitable donation for the price of art. During the start of COVID, a local gallery here in town has a retail window that faces the street, and so they weren't actually doing shows, but they were offering the retail window display to artists. And for a month, you know, I had this space, and so I was like, what do I want to do with this retail space? And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do something benefiting people who have lost their jobs, you know, just people who have been impacted by COVID, and create a series of products, these sort of like utilitarian products. I made everything from coffee cups and stickers and magnets and skateboards, and here's a phone case. I think they were, you know, there were pillows, and
Yeah, this is a good shot of kind of some of that.
Yeah, and so this color blue is is I think Pantone's color of the year for 2002.
Oh,
Or sorry, not 2002. What the fuck am I talking about? For 2000, and so I put these old school price tags on it, and so and basically printed them on each of these goods. And so, like, the button might say $50, and so that was the price of the donation that you would think
for the good. Yeah.
that would then get passed on to a charity of their choice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew it was going to charity, so they were able to actually kind of choose, and
Yeah.
you kind of like helped just get that money where it needed to go.
Yeah, it was, you could drag down, you could like make a donation to the gallery, you could make a donation to myself, or
Yeah.
the charity of their choice.
Oh.
I've since learned that's illegal, that you're not allowed to like,
Take
I don't know,
charity
pass
openly.
money thing,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, whatever, you can sue me.
I think I think in court your heart's in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty rad products. Like the skateboard was one of my favorite. It's just such a dope deck, and the way that these price tags are printed on there. I mean, they look real.
Yeah. No, I remember when you launched it and I saw like the iPhone case. I was like, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, I don't know if it's as apparent as or not, but my sort of background in advertising and branding,
Yeah. I feel like this was like a way for you to really be like, hey, like, it's all blue, it's all simple, but they're actually cool little products, and it says something, right? It makes you, I don't know what it is about the price tag too.
Well, the thing, so I forgot to mention, like, it was a way to like show your charity or your altruistic side, like I just had this idea, like, wouldn't it be great that like your phone case and someone, it says $50, on this thing, people are going to be like, oh, what's that? And it's like, oh, I donated $50.
Oh yeah.
People want to like brag about their good deeds.
Yeah, and these,
yeah. So this kind of plays into that, like, even Facebook says, or GoFundMe, like, do you want to publish your name? Of course I do. I want everybody to know that I donated $25.
Yeah, what's the point if you don't?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Plays into that.
It's a really cool way for you to, and I don't know, you created this little campaign, and, if I ever see someone with a blue object with a tag on it, I will probably run them down, I mean, for real. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I'll be like, I know where you got that, and I'd love to hear their story about it,
I am a good person. That's probably what they'll say.
Yeah, man. No, that's a good one, Chad. I remember when that came out, we were pretty Mike and I were talking about that quite a bit.
Yeah, those
those
Instagram stories were great.
Thanks for purchasing it. I saw the orders that you guys made.
Yeah, of course we would put our names in, of course.
Yeah.
In the last section, that and you called it randos, is there anything in this section, this was just the section that kind of caught my eye,
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything like particular in there that, there's the photo show section.
I would have to remember what is actually in there. I think in general, the rando section was me. Again, I have issues around identity, and like titles, and especially as an artist, galleries are always trying to put you into a box, and there's people that like will paint bluebonnets, and like that's what they do. They're gonna paint bluebonnets, 800 different ways, and like the artist because they're the bluebonnet artist. And I think partly because I have a short attention span, but also grew up in advertising where I'm working on 6 to 8 different brands at a time, and one can be a tire and the other, a beer, and very different. And I liked being able to kind of be a chameleon, with each of these different brands or whatever. So anyway, once I had sort of embraced this idea of an artivist, I was like, does everything have to have a social, message behind it? Can I just make fun stuff? Can I just have an idea and make it? Is that going to like change my artist statement or what I'm known for? And so I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to start making stuff. And if it fits within a collection or a theme, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. So that was it. These don't have a collection or a home.
Yeah.
And they're not
overarching topic, as it were. Yeah. And I think when I was reading this, I was like, oh yeah, you're kind of like reflecting kind of on, a picture is worth whatever you can get for it. I liked that one.
That was actually I put that in a silent auction, and I got $150 for it.
That's the joke. That's the joke. Oh, that's good. Yeah, someday this will be worth hundreds. That's another good one.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, and you touched on it in your video. I guess one of the other things I wanted to ask you is just, you touched on your legacy, right? And art is a way to kind of leave part of you behind. And, is that something you've really kind of started to think about more in your lifetime? The last few years?
If I think about it, like, I think it's a couple of things. One is, I never thought I would live a long life for whatever reason, and now that I'm, getting close to 50, you start thinking about, mortality a little bit more than you would, when you were younger. And then, of course, when things like COVID, come up. But I also think, like, working in advertising, I kind of compare advertising to like bubble gum. It's disposable. Like, you can spend months on something that someone may only see for 3 seconds and, forget about it, or maybe it goes into their subconscious and they remember it, they recall it when they're at the grocery store or something like that. But art feels more timeless, more important, much like architecture, like a building is going to be there for, decades or longer. And I feel like art has the potential, to outlive the artists and, end up in a museum and yeah, it's a way to sort of live on. So yeah, I mean, that's just something that I think about. The other thing that I'll say too, because I'm a very spiritual person in a sort of like new agey kind of way,
Sure.
like, and I used to fear death a lot. And what happens after you die,
Sure.
and I've since come around through some medically assisted ketamine treatment.
Horse medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But, and that was part of the mental health thing. But, I came out of that looking forward to death, not in a macabre sort of like, I want to end my life. I love life.
Sure.
But I don't fear death. I'm actually looking forward to the next.
Yeah, whatever that might be. Right?
Yeah.
It's life's greatest
back.
question.
Yeah.
And I feel that question drives a lot of things in our world in a positive light and in a negative light. You know, when we have that question, what happens when we die is there's a lot to it, right? And we all ponder it. I can't say I haven't had some medically induced events that have definitely made me look at everything differently, right? And sometimes that, you know, it's opened my eyes to
Medically?
Yeah, medically.
Okay.
You know,
or not.
or not.
Some plant-based medicine, perhaps.
Yeah, plant-based, organic.
I'm not gonna ask.
100% organic.
I liked how you said new age. I think you would really get along with my parents, Chad.
Yeah,
They're just hippies, but you know, that's
Buddy.
the culture I grew up in.
Nice. Yeah, so these are just, you know,
Yeah. Oh, please
ridiculous.
touch art. You touch it, you buy it. That's another one. I've always appreciated art. You know, when you go to the museums, there's like, if you touch, you know, and I totally get it, but I think a piece of art that's telling you to touch the art is pretty.
Well, you know, you mentioned earlier that I had, like, you know, I'm paraphrasing. I'm probably giving myself more credit than I'm worth, but like a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And I think you were talking about the gun show in particular. And I remember there was a curator talking about the gun show and like telling this room of people, like, here's an artist that like doesn't take himself seriously. Like and I'm thinking, like, is the gun show funny?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
like I'm not, you know, but you know, maybe it's not funny, haha, but maybe there's sort of this like ridiculousness and this irony.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny for the wrong reasons. Maybe that's what it is. But not. Yeah, it's hard to put a finger on that. Is it because we have a connection to these objects that you kind of made not funny? Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't know. It's. I mean, I'm sure, like the photo of Kurt Cobain post suicide with the phrase "you'll poke your eye out" from, you know, A Christmas Story. Like, yeah, it is kind of like somebody could laugh at that, and that was part of my intention of take these sort of like throwaway lines. But anyway, you know, not to get back into that, but like it goes back to the identity thing, and like, do I have permission to just have like silly jokes? You know, when I just did a collection based on mental health, you know, that was inspired by that a whole bunch of celebrity suicides. You know, like my heroes were dying, and it was like, fuck, man, like this is pretty heavy stuff. And so I was painting a lot of stuff related to that, but then yeah, I also have funny stuff, and it's interesting now that the sort of general political climate is changing. We're coming out of COVID. I'm going deeper into my practice of spirituality and meditation, and I feel like there's a change in my work coming, you know.
Sure.
And it's also like what's really great about this book coming right now, because I do feel, to, you know, use a pun or whatever, is, you know, it is sort of like the end of a chapter.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, you're closing the book on some stuff.
yeah,
some things that happened to all of us, you know, in a big way. Yeah, I you know, I kind of feel like, you know, you were channeling kind of your emotions and thoughts and feelings of that time, but now do you think you're going to be able to maybe channel, you know, more
some
about
optimism,
you know, or
maybe,
more
or
about yourself in your art, you know, maybe focus on you instead of the subject of the news, or, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's definitely evolving. You know, I was doing this, I think it's the series, Chad Rea Was Here, which is, you know, I was doing these sort of graffiti tags of like a face with the X's, the eyes crossed out, you know, is the person dead, or, you know, like drunk high kind of vibe or whatever. And some lines just sort of like come to me, like in the shower and stuff. Like, there was one that said, do what comes to life, she said. Now I'm addicted to cocaine, which like, I don't do cocaine. I'm not addicted to cocaine, but I thought it was a fucking funny voice that I heard in my head. It was like sort of like self-help gone wrong.
You need to go paint this on something.
Yeah, I was like, I started using like really bright, like neon. I was like, oh, I want to just use purples and greens. And so, that's the great thing about an artist is like every time you do something and you sort of step out of your comfort zone, it leads you down another path, and every time, this notion of like, when is a painting done or when is a piece finished, mirrored with this idea of perfectionism and, getting to a point where like, man, if I take one more step, I could totally fuck this thing up. Like, I want to do this thing. I want to add another layer. I want to try this thing, but if I do, I'm going to fuck it up. And so I leaned into that, and I just thought, like, what if I start like vandalizing my own work, and painting phrases over it or sort of tagging it. And that was like super liberating, and it just sort of gets me over this preciousness or this hump, and that's what just keeps me constantly evolving is like, oh, I want to try this thing. And worst case, I paint over it, and, the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten as an artist was, finish it. Like, just finish it, because I can't tell you how much,
or like that feeling.
Well, no, just like, because you guys could probably attest to this too, but certainly, painters and like you're like, oh man, I want to paint. And then you start painting like, oh, I fucking suck at painting. Or like, I want to paint, a dog, and like, oh my God, like I'm halfway into this and it's not true. It was like, fuck it, I quit.
Like, you need to finish it.
And it's just like, finish it. Like,
who cares?
Paint the thing, use all the paint, finish all the canvas, get it to a point. Even if you don't like it, get it done, finish it, and that can be interpreted lots of different ways. Some people, they'll just be like, oh, it's done. But for me, it's like, it's not finished until I like it. And so I'll keep trying different things until I like it.
Oh man, no, that's good advice. I mean, I think if you want to learn an instrument or if you want to learn how to really do anything, there's that wall. You're always going to hit a wall. Learning how to just push through the wall, right? Yeah, that's good stuff. I was just thinking about I think in your video you said, like what, and this probably came from before you really started getting more into art, but your thoughts on, what is art? It's art because I say it is, and an artist has that ability though to be like, it is art. This is art because I made it, but it's an interesting quote, right? Because
is it? I don't know. I was like, I was interviewed for about 3 hours, and the director who made that, like, I mean, he's amazing. But he found sort of this story and this narrative, and I was like, that sounds like such a dumb thing to say. Like, but he was like, no, it's great. So I was like, man, I trust you.
I mean, dude, you said it, and I don't know, and maybe it's like, it could even be your subconscious, but that I really attracted to that line, and I always have loved art, but art, you go to New York City. I remember my dad and I went to like the Met, and the main art that was there was this artist from South Africa. All of his art was made out of elephant dung. And objectively it was like pretty cool. A lot of it was cool, but it was literally, when it comes down to it, like, was he making a joke? Because it was really serious in the room, but the whole time I'm just thinking, like, this is just a bunch of shit. Like, is he getting, man, who's to say?
Like, I could do this. I could do this.
Yeah, this guy's rich. He probably has a nice house.
Yeah, but that's I've probably said that in my lifetime before too. You know, this idea of like, I could fucking do that, but it's like the difference is you didn't.
Yeah.
That,
No, he
that
did
person,
it.
that person did it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
No, he finished it.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
noticed, chat, your hat says bros, but it's in like the Coors font. I appreciate that as a funny hat.
You got some dog hair on that. Yeah, no, this is a really good call them a social impact agency here in Austin called the Butler Bros. But
Cool.
yeah, shout out to them. Yeah. What else?
Are you? I guess I want to ask you. Are you still pretty involved, day to day in marketing projects, or have you kind of started to split your life more with art?
I would say I'm about. It's not exactly like 50-50, but sort of in my head, it's about 50-50. You know, like I'm still working for agencies and brands in a limited capacity. It helps fund things like this book and fabricating some of this art. Like especially with the gun show. I've exhibited that show twice. Once was about 2 years ago, and it was only a pop-up show for about 2 days, and then Pressa House Gallery in San Antonio invited me to show, and that show's currently happening. But that first show, like I didn't feel right about selling any of the work because I felt like I was making money off of tragedy,
Oh.
The other part of it was like, who's going to buy a big fat fucking bag of bullets, Like, are they going to put that on their mantle at home? And if they do, like, maybe I don't want them to be the one to buy it, Like, so anyway, I've kind of wrestled with that. But my point is like, I've probably invested, close to $10,000 in, that artwork, fabricating art and, my time and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm in many ways, I kind of feel like Robin Hood, that I'm doing a lot of the advertising work to help fund really what I love and what I hope to do. I mean, I've spent 25 years in advertising, and it's what I know. And it certainly applies to a lot of other things, including art, but, in many ways it's a career change, and I'm like a junior copywriter right now in terms of art. And so yeah, I've got to remember that.
I think I really do see your skills as a marketer. There's something to that and how you're able to kind of translate it into what you're currently doing with your art. And I think that your ability, and you can even pipe in on this, but like I'm really fascinated by how you are connecting community, and that's what you do as a marketer, right? Isn't it about finding you have an audience, you're trying to connect with that audience, and it could be there's a million ways to slice that, right? And
influence them, or
yeah, and
yeah, it's what I'm doing with art is not that different of a process with advertising. I mean, with advertising, you're typically given the problem, or the objective, build awareness, sell X number of widgets, get people to click this button. And it's, for a particular brand. And so essentially I'm writing my own creative briefs, and I don't have a boardroom to go through to get my ideas produced, and that is the thing that I love most about
the freedom.
I like, everything I made is me. Like it's my, if I fuck up, it's my fault or whatever. And if it's my success.
Yeah. You kind of get to be your own judge, jury, and executioner, right? No one can tell you. Yeah, you can be hard on yourself, but
Yeah, and it's, you have a direct line to the consumer, and I really like, going to exhibitions and getting feedback from people, and getting that sort of real time feedback. I don't really get that, with advertising, or not even like, even philanthropy work in many cases, unless you're dealing directly with the benefactor. But yeah, there's just something nice about creating these things, and it's like I said, it's not unlike the process with advertising. If I were to come up with an idea for a whatever, a TV commercial, if they even make those anymore, or videos, content, I'm not gonna do the wardrobe and the directing and the DP work and all that stuff. Like you put together teams, and so I guess I'm more akin to the like Jeff Koons and Damien Hirsts and some of these modern artists that have, or even Andy Warhol, The Factory. Like he had all kinds of people
team. Yeah, it was a monster.
Making shit, and so like I can still be this like the idea guy, and then when needed, work with people to help fabricate.
Execute, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so similar to when you're doing an ad campaign or you're building.
Yeah, there's nothing there's nothing different. I think with some art though, a lot of the artists will try to I don't know, maybe intentionally leave room for interpretation. And I think with advertising, you don't have that luxury. Like you have to be very clear in your message and getting it across. And so, I had somebody approach me at the gun show opening a couple of weeks ago and was like, were you in advertising?
Huh.
And I was like, did you read like my bio or something? And he says, no, I can just tell because each of your pieces have a message, like a very clear message behind it. And I've had other people think like, oh, you must be a designer.
Yeah.
Because you have this sort of design, and I'm not. I'm actually a writer, but
there's some uniformity, and interesting. Huh.
Which is also weird too, because like art is such a visual medium for the most part. I was influenced by Jenny Holzer and Barbara Kruger, that used a lot of words in their art and like LED screens and stuff like that, which were an inspiration for me even in the ad world. But this is, it's great because, even in advertising, you get pigeonholed like, oh, you're not an art director. You got to pick one. You're the copywriter, and that's the art director, or that's the designer.
Wow.
And as an artist, I can be like, fuck, I'm all of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Artist is the broadest term, and it has the most, I don't know, it's the most forgiving as well. Like a designer, man, is like, super precious, and like everything's, I don't know, like perfect. And an artist, man, like you can just totally fuck shit up. And I love it.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, one other thing I wanted to, because this is Hackfort and Mike and I are nerds, I did want to ask you, I know you've worked on games in the past. And is there any, out of all the games you worked on, like what's the most memorable, like campaign or just like, what was that story like?
It all started with id Software.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And Doom and Quake and
Oh my god.
I was 21, 2, 3, I don't know, somewhere like straight out of college.
Straight out of college. And was your degree in marketing when you went to college?
It was advertising.
Okay,
yeah.
Advertising. Yeah. Okay.
But I went to a university that didn't really have like a creative program, so I learned a lot about
like the business side, or kind of like
like account management and strategy and PR. Like I think in hindsight that was a really good move, because I learned,
one side of the beast, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. but I think it was because I was the youngest person in the agency that I was working at. I could be wrong, but like, I had sort of the knowledge, and like my roommate had a compact computer, and we were able to actually play, these PC games. And so, yeah, I got to play games, at work, playing Doom, and I can't, take credit for this, but the agency that was handling the account, like, I would credit them for this transition of moving from the sort of illustrative, box art or even game footage, as the sort of tool for marketing into this more sort of hyper realistic, like, because what's so fucking scary about a bunch of pixel,
Sure.
Pixel blood? Like, so we would basically find, sort of these photographic real life interpretations of what was happening in the game. And like, we had people hanging from chains with like guts hanging out of their torso. And like, I mean, this is what I'm talking about with Congress standing with
this
the
game
ads.
is causing all the problems.
Like, I did an ad for Resident Evil, and it had this, it was like a German Shepherd, because they had those like rabid dogs in the game, and it had like a severed arm in its mouth, and it was something about, and back to fucking guns. It was saying something to the effect of like, save a bullet for yourself, or something like that, But anyway, so I think, id Software, just because those guys were rock stars, felt like we were rock stars, and we were really sort of, blazing new trails, and felt very sort of punk rock.
Was it like a very organic kind of, working with them, like when you were at the table, like coming up with ideas, like was it just a lot of back and forth, or I'm just like, I mean, I loved the Doom games growing up, and Quake.
Like Sean's like favorite.
I mean, easily, it's easily one of my favorites. Just because they were so disruptive.
Yeah,
it was like, this game's bad, and but they're actually great games. And Trent did the music on Quake. A lot of people don't even realize that. 9 Inch Nails. No,
it was a fun time. I mean, this is when we lived in Dallas, and
we're young.
The guys were young, and we know some of the same folks from that world. Mike Wilson, and great friend still to this day. And he would bring me along to all the other sort of offshoots, like Ion Storm and God Games and Take Two Interactive. And I mean, I could probably list 10 different game companies
that you interface with. And I think it's interesting just the time you were in, because gaming, there was the NES and stuff right at that time, right? But like computer gaming hadn't really, it was like at that precipice where like, oh, you can do your word processing, but you can also play Quake, and you can connect it to the internet, and those guys were so ahead of everybody else. Like the idea of playing someone somewhere else at Doom, or like, whoa.
So
I mean,
this was also around the time, when AOL was like sending out the discs, and you're like, oh my God, I'm talking to somebody like in Florida.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We had my brother on here. My brother's a computer programmer, and he funny. I didn't even know this story until he was on Hackfort Live, and we got the CD, right? And my brother convinced my dad, like, yeah, we can do it. We'll do the trial, whatever. Well, at the time, you dialed out, but you dialed out to the closest AOL server, which was actually in Seattle, and we were in North Idaho.
Yeah.
My dad's phone bill that month was all long distance. It was like thousands of dollars.
Oh, really?
It was like, and I think my dad was able to like do something to like but like, and then finally they allowed, dial up to be like long distance, but that wasn't totally a thing. And my dad just like blew his lid, I guess. And I was like, I had no idea that happened.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny. Yeah. It's crazy how times have changed.
Technology, man.
And now we can play Quake in VR.
I can probably play Quake on my phone. And, have you ever seen that, Chad? It's like, it's this total technology trope where it's like, will it play Doom? And people try to get Doom to play on like a printer or an old, it's a total thing. I could send you some links. Like it's you'll see it. I'll see it on my media feeds every once in a while. They'll be like, oh, they got Doom to run on this, like, it's just this total nerd thing as a benchmark.
Someone's smartwatch.
Yeah, on your smartwatch, or like, some medical piece of technology that shouldn't be able to run Doom, but they made it run Doom. Oh, I think the last one you and I talked about, a guy got a pregnancy test to run Doom. Like, it had like a chip in it, and the chip itself couldn't do it, but he added like this monitor, and but he was using a pregnancy test to play Doom. And it's so silly, but it's like this total nerd benchmark. Will it run Doom?
Funny.
It's like a total thing.
That's awesome. I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, man, it goes some of this nerd stuff.
We're having a demon.
Yeah. Oh my god. The new Doom games, man. I don't know if you've seen them, Chad. They're wild. It really went back to their roots though, because I feel like they kind of drifted a little bit, and these new games are like, it's one of my favorites the last few years.
I think I can't remember what's PlayStation up to now.
5 if you can get one.
Yeah, I think I sort of dropped off PlayStation 2.
Okay. Yeah, that
because
was probably my favorite PlayStation.
Yeah, I think after that I just there was too many buttons.
Too much going on. Too much internet.
Too many sticks.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I've honestly, like, I did get I don't know if you've seen, they're reissuing a like Atari.
Oh yeah, like a nice Atari.
It's like this, sort of an updated console, but it's basically got like
all the games,
and it's got streaming.
That's going to be really cool.
So I definitely ordered that. But yeah, and some of the Apple games, are pretty fun to play too, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm much more of a light gamer these days.
Yeah. No, I mean, I mean, Mike and I talk about this all the time. It's like, I love games, but I spend most of my time on Hackfort, and you spend a lot of your time on art. So it's like fitting that time slot in is sometimes pretty difficult. I mean, I played, the pandemic was probably the most I've played in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's when I got the subscription to the arcade, and got a controller.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and they're addictive too.
Oh yeah.
It's whatever. Like, we're all channeling our money and attention to something, right?
Totally.
And that's totally fine.
No.
It's just, I'm gonna either be on my phone doing mindless scrolling. I'd rather, be playing a game, or I don't know, slinging some paint or something.
No, it's all about where your passions are, and that's why it's fun. And that's why I love Truefort. We jam all that together and all the things I love into 1 week,
Yeah.
You get to meet people and you get to have conversations and you get to connect, and that's, community is, I think, at the heart of most things. And I live for it, man. I'm one of those people. I mean, I'm so happy we got to have this chat tonight. It's just so cool to hear what's going on in Chad Rea's head.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you want to know too much. No, but it's always great to connect with you guys. Treefort is such a great organization, and what you guys do with Hackfort is also like equally impressive. And you just have this lovely sort of, I don't know, beacon of community and creativity that's going on in Boise. And it's sort of my connection to Boise, and very, very thankful to connect with you guys, and hopefully as the pandemic is lifted, I can see more of you in person.
Of course, my man.
Yeah,
No, we
absolutely.
definitely would love to have you back. I guess before we kind of roll out, Chad, and you can stay on when we roll out, and we can catch up a little after the show. Is there just anything else you want to plug? Besides the book, chadrea.com, chadrea.com for our listeners out there. Great place to pick up the book and also learn about a few other things you're doing.
Yeah. Instagram at Chad Rea. I'm a sucker for followers. So need to boost my ego.
Yeah, please add Chad so he can get those little notifications. I like the little serotonin bubbles I get.
Spikes of dopamine.
Totally. No, I mean, the book, it's $30 on my website, and I've been kind of telling people, if you can't afford an original, you can afford all of them in the book, because this is pretty much not everything I've done in the last 4.5 years, but a pretty good chunk, at least, my favorites. And my dog, he agrees.
Yeah,
he agrees, man. He's like, buy his book. I need dog food. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your dog's name? What kind of dog is it?
Ringo, come here, buddy.
Ringo.
Yeah. Ringo.
Aw.
Hey, say hi.
He's like, nah, I'm shy now.
He needs cats.
Well, all right, Chad. Well, thanks again, buddy. Yeah, happy to have you, and we'll roll out here. If you want to stick on for a minute, we'll chat.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for joining the show, and look out for the next one. And
it'll be even better.
Maybe.
Better be. Otherwise, you guys.
Hackfort. This is a tech festival that brings the community together to share knowledge and new skills with one another. Every year you sponsor Hackfort, which is, for those of you who are not aware, Hackfort. This is a tech festival that brings the community together to share knowledge and new skills.